Thank you very much, Sarah, and good morning to everyone. Over the last years, in all IFOAM Organics Europe congresses and events, a session on the new organic regulation has always taken place. Why is there such an interest on the organic regulation? Mainly because the legal requirements have always an impact on everyday life of all the organic operators, both in the EU but also outside the EU. You know that changes in the regulatory framework can imply changes also in organic production, in organic practices, and even in recipes of organic products. So this is the reason why there is such an interest on the organic regulation. In this moment, such session is even more relevant as the new organic regulation will be applied from 1st January 2022. So it means in just 3 months from now. Who followed the revision of the organic regulation knows that it was a long process, long and challenging, that ended up in the basic regulation 848 that it was published in 2018. And since that date, there was the development of the secondary legislation. It means that by the end of this year, around 24, perhaps 25 secondary regulation will be published and integrate the basic regulation published in 2018. So today's session is mainly a session to inform organic operators, in this case, organic processors and traders, on the new organic requirements that will apply from 2022 and that are relevant to organic processing. First, we will have a presentation from the EU Commission on the main changes expected for organic processing. It will be followed by 2 presentations. The first one giving a bit a sector's opinion on the changes, and the second more focused on the changes in organic control, certification, and import. Yes, now it's time to start. We start with a presentation from Laurence Bonafos. She's team leader in the organics unit of the EU Commission. So welcome, Laurence, and now the floor is yours.
Try to share the screen, and I'm very happy to talk to this conference today. I hope you can see me okay, because on the screen it looks like I'm half part, but that's okay. And then I will see if I can share my screen with you. So just make sure that the technology is working. Let me see if we can have it. So maybe I need to close a few windows because we can't do this. And hopefully now it will work. Let me see. Sorry about this. It takes a little bit of... Okay, can you tell me if you can see the presentation now?
It's charging? Yes. If you can do full screen, it's better. Yes. There.
Is it okay now? Because I cannot see really the... Let me see if I can see it or not. Okay, I will try again. Is it better now?
Yes, it's not full screen, but I think it's okay. We can see.
Now you should be able to see. No?
Not full screen, but it's okay. I think.
Okay, sorry about this. I'm just going to present you the expected changes, the new organic rules, and try to make it short because I think the main purpose of this session is for you to be able to ask questions. And as Emmanuelle was mentioning, basically we have been discussing these new organic rules now for almost 7 years. First with the Basic Act and now with the secondary legislation. And now we have about 23 legal acts, maybe as Emmanuelle mentioned, maybe also more coming, but we have 23 legal acts, and you will see that these acts, they have been developed, the secondary legislation have been developed according to three main axes. The first axis is the production rules, the second axis is the control rules, and the third axis are the trade rules. On the slide, I put the acts that are basically relevant for organic food processors. And the acts that are in blue are basically the acts that are already published, okay? And the acts that are in black on the slides are the acts that are not yet published, but on which we have already started the discussion with the member states, with the delegates of the member states and with the delegate. So you will see that there is an act that is relevant for you.
Yes, sorry, Laurence. We still see the first slide, so it's not going on.
Okay. But I'm just still on the first slide, so it's okay, I think, Emmanuelle. And so I just say that we are still missing for production rule an act on records and on declarations and the issuance of the certificate for organic production. Now, second, we have the second set of rules is on controls. And again, this set of rules, the objective is to basically set specific rules for the group of operators, because you know that one of the main changes that was introduced by the organic reform was to have the possibilities for EU operators to be grouped in group of operator. And so the secondary legislation is dealing with the internal control system that must be put by the group of operators, and also the controls. And of course, also all the official controls and the traceability and compliance measures related in accordance with the new rules, general rules on official controls. On trade.
Sorry, Laurence, we still see the really first slide with the title.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes.
So I don't know. I have to escape this maybe. And,
yes, and I see that from the audience, they are also asking if it's possible to put in full screen. So if you, yes, probably is that.
I'm trying, but it doesn't. This isn't the best I can do now.
Okay.
Is it working for you or not?
Not full screen, but okay. Yeah, okay, a bit better.
I don't know how to do this. I'm just trying one more time. Is it better now?
No.
Otherwise, Bartosz has my presentation, so... Can you see the second slide now, Emanuele?
Now we can see new organic rules controls.
Okay, so this is what I was referring to, the rules on controls with the group of operators. And then you have the last set of new organic rules that concern trade. And in this case, you know that the major change that was introduced by the reform was regarding the shift from compliance to equivalence, from equivalence, to compliance. So in this set of rules, basically the main set of rules are aim to set, how the control bodies and control authorities will ask for recognition and the compliance, and how we are going to deal with the equivalence agreement that we have with countries, either via trade agreements or via administrative agreements. And now I'm going to just give some details about the main changes as we see them for the organic processed food. As you all know, probably there is a change in the scope. You know that there are some products that have been added to the scope that can be covered by organic production. One of them is salt, either sea salt or over salt for food. Another thing that has been changed is added for organic processed food is that you should not have engineered nanomaterial in organic processed food. And then there have been changes, I would say, mainly regarding, for production rules, mainly regarding cleaning and disinfection and the authorization of products and substances. So you know that under the production rules for processed food, the main changes are that now, when you are producing organic processed food, you would need to use products of cleaning and disinfection that can be used, that have been authorized under organic production. And that the provisions for these, there is not a complete list for this product of cleaning and disinfection, but you're going to have to use in the future product in cleaning and disinfection that are authorized for use in organic production. And the other changes also regarding authorization of products and substances is that now there will be the possibility for third countries to ask for authorization of products and substances, which was not the case under the previous rules. The main changes also for organic processed food are regarding the possibility to authorize the use of non-organic agricultural ingredients. The procedure has been changed. Before, the authorization was given for 1 year for one operator, and now it will be given for 6 months, but it will be given to all operators on the territory of a member state. And the authorization can be renewed only for twice for a period of 6 months. After that, the member states will have to ask for an EU authorization, so to have the non-organic agricultural ingredient put on the EU list of authorized non-organic agricultural ingredient. Changes also regarding the obligation and actions that must be taken by the operators in the event of a suspicion of non-compliance. I think it's an important change that has been introduced by the Basic Act. And finally, another changes that has been introduced by the Basic Act is regarding the use of natural flavoring substances or natural flavoring preparations that needs to be calculated, in particular in the agricultural ingredient under the labeling provision. The main changes also that have been introduced for organic processed food is that there is an obligation to use techniques that are authorized in the processing of food products, and the conditions for the techniques that can be authorized are set in an implementing act, and it's the Implementing Act Regulation 2020-464. And the main changes, of course, have been that all the annexes that were previously in Regulation 889/2008 have been updated, and they have been updated according to, in particular, to ensure that they are in line with the horizontal rules, for example, for food additives, for processing aids, for cleaning and disinfection. So they have been updated according to the horizontal rules. And there have been also a major review of the list of authorized non-organic agricultural ingredients to be used in the production of organic processed food. And this, for this reason, because there have been a major review of this non-organic agricultural ingredient authorized, there are transitional provisions till the 31st December 2023 to use non-organic agricultural ingredients in organic processed food. So the previous one that were under Regulation 889. And the next thing changed that will be for operators will be basically that we will have to also to keep records, in particular to keep records on the use of cleaning and disinfection products. And there will be also the obligation to keep records on the precautionary measures. And also, of course, on the mass balance that in order to be able to do the traceability exercise in organic processed food. So what's next in terms of what are we going to develop in terms of work from the Commission? As you all know, there will be a new expert group for technical advice on organic production. We hope that the group will be able to work from this semester, starting, end of 2021. There will be, of course, a review of the annexes that I just mentioned regarding cleaning and disinfection. There will be also an update of the COM websites where we will summarize the organic legislation. There would be an adaptation of IT tools on organic farming information system and on trade control and expert system. And there will be also, starting 2022, we will start to develop detailed production rules for sea salt and other salts for food and feed, and also detailed for production rules for insect for food, feed and food. And I think one of the major challenge for the Commission will be to have international negotiations and to make the shift happening from equivalence to compliance. Thank you very much for your attention, and sorry if I spent a little more time. That was preview.
Yes, thank you very much, Laurence, for this general view on the main changes for organic processor. We will now continue with Alexander Beck. He is Executive Board member and Director of AOL, the Organic Food Association based in Germany, but covering also other German-speaking countries. He's also a very active member of the IFOAM Organics Europe Interest Group on Processing. So Alex will tell us about the main opportunities and challenges of the requirement just presented by Laurence. So welcome, Alex, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Emanuele, for introducing me. Yes, and greetings to all out there in the internet, anywhere in Europe, and the people here joining me here in Warsaw at the expo, at the Organic Expo here in the city. So yes, I have the pleasure to introduce some elements, because as we have already heard from Mrs. Bonafos, there are many changes. But I cannot come back to all of them. I will really look for some, I think, from my point of view, most important ones. And first of all, I would like to mention that I would say the change of the regulation and the deep revision as we have faced for the organic regulation is as such, I would say, really a challenge for the operators, because they need to understand where are the changes and where are the changes not, and implement it. And this is always creating a time of insecurity and new challenges for the operators. But I can, for the post-farming operators, I can say take a bit away the alarming situation. I would say the changes are not too deep for the processing technology as such. So it's not too much new elements in, but some of those elements have really a potential, yeah, and need to be taken very serious. And I would like really to have a deeper look into those elements, yeah. And let's start with the processing as such. And as we have already heard from Mrs. Bonafos, I would say the regulator has, by reasons, decided that the consumer expect more strict requirements in terms of the use of conventional flavors in order to fulfill the naturalness, the true nature character which organic products should have. And it took a decision to come up, or to not to propose, to decide on a much stricter requirement for conventional regulations so far. But these requirements have for some operators a deep influence, and I will give you a bit of insight in. For example, we have one member who has to reformulate 1,000 recipes. So and I will not say wrong or right. I simply say that is a massive challenge for an operator to reformulate this number of recipes. And the most impacted groups of products are tea, fruit preparation, soft drinks, and sweets. So they have the job to do. Other branches are not really touched by this detailed new requirements. Nevertheless, you should not forget that the shift from the current regulation on natural flavors toward from the name fruit flavors, as it is called in the jargon of the branches, is even from the cost side. We have some flavors which will increase in the cost at a factor of 10. So simply to get a bit of feeling where the differences are, and you can understand what it means for some operator to do the shift. Whether it's wrong or right, I do not discuss. I simply say it has could have an impact on the calculation. So that's a bit for this, and there are some concerns about the harmonized implementation of the new requirements from operator side, simply because of the controllability of this requirement. Here are some questions marks around, and I would quickly strive it. As we know, or I think one very important element, and this is already obviously not everywhere the case, that the flavor industry as such is really let's say, giving in its specification concrete, precise informations whether the flavors presented to the customers fulfill the requirement, for example, of Article 16, 2, 3, 4 of the flavor regulation. So here we need really to keep an eye on, and even authorities need to keep an eye on, that this kind of informations are really there, so that the organic operators has a chance to trust in this information. So it's, and the second element is the analytical check of these flavors is extremely complex, and is not only based on chemical analytics, it needs to be checked by a sensorical and chemical analysis in order to have, I would say, a good information. And this makes it more complicated to really check whether these informations are right or wrong. And finally, I need to mention that we observed in now studying the situation, and that's based on, I would say, a very complicated flavoring regulation. We are seeing a situation that already the flavoring regulation as such is in a different way implemented in different European countries. And see this in combination with the link to the organic regulation, it has a potential to create conflicts, market conflicts. And so I only will like to mention it, and we will see what happens in the market. But we should observe clearly in order to finally to meet the requirements of the regulation and to meet the requirements of our customer expectations, and not create too much market distortions. Yeah, then we have a second topic. Mrs. Bonafos has already strived it. It's about cleaning and disinfectants. I will even take this off in my thoughts, and we have heard that in 2024 the operators have to fulfill the requirements of the positive list set up in organic regulation when doing their cleaning and disinfectant activities. I think there are good reasons why the legislator has decided this. We know this kind of substances used in the production of products along the whole chain, by the way, can have a deep impact of environment. And during pandemic, we have seen that, I would say, the residues of disinfectants in food products are massively increased, by the way. You can ask the laboratories, they will tell you stories about this. So there is a need really to have a closer look. I fully agree. And by the way, this is even in line with Green Deal, where it's a question of how to detox the environment is one of the main angles of the overall program. Yeah, okay, let's have a look for the problems in the back. First of all, we need to see the types of operations, of processing operations, are quite different and quite diverse. And I would say the needs in regards to cleaning and disinfectants are very, very different. So that is one of the problems in the back of this legal project. Then the safety issue is always at the highest level for a processing company. So it needs to be ensured that the foods finally are safe in terms of health. Then operators face, beside of the organic regulation, multiple requirements at state and private level. For example, we have operators, or not, next point is the most processing operations in organic sector are mixed operations. So they have to fulfill organic, conventional, halal, kosher, whatever. So then all these requirements are carrying requirements for cleaning and disinfectant. All this need to be brought together in a framework which works. And I would like to mention a last point. When you really think about these requirements will be set up on state level for organic production. And if you look at these companies are doing now parallel production of organic and conventional. In fact, this means that the requirement within the organic regulation will describe the status of cleaning and disinfections at all food industry in future. So that will be the reality. Nobody will have a shared cleaning and disinfectant strategy within its company. That's not possible. That's not feasible, in fact. So that's a high responsibility. I simply mention this, and I'm quite happy that I can announce you that IFOAM is doing IGOP, Interest Group of Organic Processing, has already started a study on practicability and try to develop strategies. But even there is a project where Italy, France, Netherlands, and Germany is involved, where we work on a scientific basis together with Fiebel. Ursi is with us today to try to develop, I would say, an approach for how to solve these multiple problems into Beck and I would say, and provide something which will really work out for practice. And yes, and as stated before, that will, from my point of view, in future define what's good cleaning and disinfecting practice is in industry at all. So then I will quickly come to trade. Simply one remark here, the main change in trade is that practical all retail will come in future into the certification systems. That is, I would say, the main, or much more retail operations will come into the system. This is, some of them are really shy and saying it's quite complicated and see it as a big burden. I'm not so skeptical about that. I think it will work. It needs to be administrated. It's even a challenge for the CBs, by the way, to do that, because it's a really big number of new operations. But I like to remind us that for example, the small organic, poor organic shops, they have a very, very low risk of non-compliances, and therefore we need to realize that the whole control concept is strictly and more risk-oriented than the current regulation. So this should be giving a good hook to bring these operators within the system by recognizing their very low likelihood for risks. So that's one thing. The second thing is on trade is for sure the topic of import, but I will not stress this here because this is a very big topic which is not finally decided, and this shift from equivalence to compliance that needs a deeper I would say discussion, as I can provide now. Emanuele, do I have another 5 minutes? Or I'm... Okay, I continue. As long as he is not blocking me. So and then it's another topic which I really like to mention. It's the topic of quality assurance. Already, Mrs. Bonafos mentioned that in regard to, I would say, informations on possible non-compliances. We have now a more concrete requirements in organic regulation. And I would like to say, I personally think that is a good decision, because currently are we facing really an unharmonized, partly chaotic situation how to handle non-compliances, and every country and every authority is thinking in a different direction, and it's really, forgive me, but it's chaotic in Europe. And so it's good to know that the legislator decided more clearer description of the share of responsibility between operators and CBs, a more clearer guidance how in cases of informations on possible non-compliances, the operator should behave, and how I would say the information transfer looks like. And at least even it's quite nice to see that, or I think it is quite the right direction, that is more clarified what the precautionary measures should be at all steps. The processors already know it, because it's not a new requirement for processors, but for the farmers, it's a bit of a challenge, because farms are very small operations, and for the trade, it's new, but in fact, it's fitting into a world where the operators, by good reasons, have the responsibility. I would like to summarize it a bit in this direction, that the responsibility put on the shoulders of the operators is a correct way to do, and to increase it. And I think they have the knowledge, they know what the operation exactly means, they know how the product looks like, they know the problem. So it's good to use their knowledge for, how to say, improving the systems. There to further develop their quality assurance systems, their precautions, I would say at the smaller, that's a good way to increase the overall level of a secure and guaranteed implementation of the regulation, which cannot be done by an annual control by a CB, which has only a few points on one day maybe. So it's better to focus in a different direction. I would like to mention here again, there's even a challenge for the CBs and even for the operators, because those systems needs to be established in some operations, and some operators are already there. But even the focus of the control of the inspection of the CBs need to change in the direction of a system check. And this is a different viewpoint even for an inspector. He needs to learn how to read a quality assurance system, how to ensure that it is properly implemented, or he needs to read, for example, in terms of traceability, how a SAP system is working. So, and it's a new kind of competence which is not always available at the organic inspectors right now. But this is the right way for the future when it comes to empower the operators by doing system checks there, improve their internal systems. Yeah, and at least I would like to summarize here, and then I will stop, Emanuele. It's now important to take the requirements set up in the new regulation, giving us a guidance for the next years in a way that can be practically implemented, which can really bring the sector forward and help the operators and help to ensure the organic integrity. If you can achieve this to I would say, a pragmatic implementation, then we're really a step forward. And yes, and I can offer we are working currently on guidelines for example, for implementation of Article 27, Article 28. This will be available soon in German, but soon even in different languages, and we are very willing to share it with you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex. It's good that at least one in the panel is physically in Warsaw, so thank you for that, Alex. So now we have the last presentation from Michel Reynaud. He's the Vice President of Ecocert, but also board member of IFOAM Organics Europe. And Michel will present us the opportunities and the challenges for what concern control, certification, and import in the new organic regulation. So welcome, Michel. Now the floor is yours.
Thank you, Emanuele. And first, good morning to everyone. And sorry not to be present in Warsaw. And special hello to our Polish friends. As it was said, it was 7 years discussion. Laurence mentioned this, and I will say from the side of IFOAM, it's 7 years contributions. Next slide, please. And before to come into opportunities and challenges, maybe just to remind for the one who do not know, that IFOAM was quite well prepared by this new regulation, new coming regulations, and established a special task force with 15 experts in regulation in the different axes mentioned by Laurence already, productions, processing, and also certifications. And also they are representing the different EU regions due to the difference also we can find in some member states. There were really significant contributions coming from other IFOAM's Organic Europe working groups. One was mentioned already by Alexander, the IGOP, the interest group on organic processing and trading, but also from the expert group on seeds and the expert group on input, and also the interest group on certification and integrities. So the main outcomes were on political and technical input that we could send to the Commission, but also to the different member states, and always to be positive and constructive in our contributions. Next slide. So we had this advocacy work activities toward all the EU institutions, from the commissions with the different DG and Parliament, also Council, but also, which is also important, as the regulation is implementing in the different member states with the national different competent authorities and Ministry of Agriculture. We publish many written political and technical inputs. There were quite a lot of meetings and e-meetings also during this COVID pandemic, and thanks also to the commissions and especially the DG AGRI to I will say let always the door opens for discussions and with different meetings, and as today through conferences and congresses. Important is also the connection and relationship we have with all members, which are in the different member states, and also a close relationship with their members, with their competent authorities. Next slide. So let's come to the control systems. So I have tried to pick in this new regulation some points in the control and trade issues. we see that this regulation is very close to the official control and for feed and feeds, and there are additional rules in the organic regulation. But it's very important to see, and when we speak about control, really to see these two regulations, because they are very close linked. One aspect is, which was I think the object of many discussions in the movement, but also in the different member states, was the verification of compliance with a minimum of once a year, and including the physical and the spot inspections, and these derogations, which can exclude low-risk operators from annual physical inspections obligations, and to allow a visit every 24 months. So next slide. So the opportunities, I think, is but really that's control authorities and control bodies can dedicate more time to the risk operators and really to focus the energy to this kind of operators, and for the low risk one to have I will say not a light inspections, but to have other ways instead a physical visit. Challenges. One challenge is, I think it's important, is first that we it's important from member state to member state to have the same understanding of what do we understand by low risk operators. So when we classified an operator as low risk, I think it must be done from the same criteria, and also to try to harmonize this in order to avoid any unfair competitions from member state to member state, or from different sectors. Another challenge is, I think, and it's a very issue, is to define and to design the verifications of a compliance without having a physical meetings. I think we should learn from the experience during the COVID-19 pandemic, where certification body, but also operators have to face because some physical visits were not possible, and I think we learn quite a lot from this, but it will be good to design and that we understand by this verification of compliance. And I think it's in the next months, I hope we will have also discussions with the Commission, especially the DG AGRI, to design together a common understanding on this in order to have an effective also verification of compliance. Next slide. The second point I wanted to mention is, as already it was mentioned by Alexander, what we welcome to have more clear procedures and follow-up of this the presence of the non-compliance when we have to deal with suspect and established non-compliance. It is clear it was, or it is still a weakness of the current regulation, but I think when we speak in the futures of current regulation, we will speak of a new one. It's the lack of clarity and harmonization and how compliance and suspicion have been dealt with. So the current regulations does not really describe how to deal with, which the new regulations does, and I think it's a good improvement. Next slide. So the opportunities with the new regulations concerning the suspecting and established non-compliance is to develop also investigation tools, because it will be very important parts in this. And for this, I think it's very important to also for control authorities and control body and to develop also cooperation with research institutes. I think it's very important to better understand also what is avoidable and not unavoidable contaminations, and also to reinforce the cooperation between the control body, but also with competent and control authorities. Challenges are I think we must maintain this system approach versus a product approach. Alexander mentioned it, that the inspectors have to more go on this system approach, let's say to have a more audit approach than control or the inspection approach. But it's also very interesting on this aspect that we should keep on this system approach. But on the other side, we must not have also a product approach and to react and to overreact when we have the presence of pesticide residue, for example, and that we have to distinguish what is avoidable and not avoidable, and not to only focus on the presence or absence of pesticide residue. The challenge is that we will have still two parallel systems as member states that have in place rules to decertified organic products containing some, let's say, organic maximum residue of pesticides. And this still stay, and I think it's very important to make it sure that there is no restrict of placing on the market of products which are produced in other member states not having this kind of rules, which is not really always the case today, and I think we should take care of this. And also, which is very important, is by 2025, the Commission will present a report to the Parliament and the Council, which may be accompanied by a legislative proposal. So it's really a challenge for the organic sector of movements, and IFOAM is working on this, and especially by financing also study to make some proposals, a constructive proposal also to the Commission, because I think it's a very complex issue, and we should take into account this complexity. Next slide. Import regime, it was already mentioned very quickly. We have different systems, and now it is clear, next slide please, that we have two systems will be in place, the trade agreement with third countries and control authorities recognized for the purpose of compliance. The opportunities there is that we have a chance to review the current recognitions of third countries, and probably to update also the equivalency, as some of them have maybe changed some of their rules in terms of productions, control and trades. And also for the control body, I think it's a good an issue or a chance to concentrate our efforts on control and not anymore on equivalent standards, which was quite very time consuming in the past, and I think no control body will really concentrate their effort on controls. Challenges is concerning for especially in the system where control bodies are recognized for the purpose of compliance is all the specific authorization for the use of products and substances, especially in some sectors like pineapple or other sectors where we have a specific issue. And that's a reason also I really recommend the countries concerned to already prepare a dossier in order to that these substances will be listed in the regulation. Next slide. And the last point I keep, it's group certifications. We know some figures of from the FIBOL report on the group certification worldwide. We see it represents quite a lot of producers and also many commodities are concerned, and it could be also an opportunity in Europe, because until now it was not allowed in the EU, and with the new regulations, group certifications will not be only a third country issue, but also will be possible in the EU. Next slide. So opportunities, I think it's ready to give access to the for the certifications for small holders in the EU. So especially for the one who has no access today, and also I think it's good opportunity in some areas, especially maybe in the east of Europe, where it was before, for some countries, before the access to the EU, they develop also some group certification, but could be a good tools to increase the development of agricultures with a common marketing channel. It means also through the group certifications to develop common marketing channels and to have a better market for this. Challenges, implementation of a requirement for the group of operators. There are few experience in the EU, so I think it's challenging for all of the stakeholders from operators, but also CBs in the EU to deal with. But we can also learn from the third countries' experiences. There's still an issue with sampling analysis costs for the group of operators, maybe be dissuasive, and I will really recommend to that we assess this. I think it will start from the beginning of next year, and we can have, and I will recommend to have a look on this. And if there are some many changes, when we see that maybe the levels and maybe the sampling must be more risk-oriented, and not only as the regulations forces now 2% for every group concerned, and maybe to better focus. But I would say let's have a look on this and assess the situations, and then if it's necessary to make some changes to this. So last slide. Next slide, please. Yes, before to say hello and thank you, I think the main challenge, and it was mentioned by Laurence, 23 legal acts, and I think it's also already a challenge to deal with this all legal act. But we try from our side, IFOAM, to make them readable and understandings, and I think some initiative like guidelines and so on will be also helpful for all the sectors. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Michel. As you said, yes, IFOAM is being very active on this, and we have a project, and we will we will develop this guidance for operators, control bodies, and for all the other interested people. So you just can check our website in the next weeks and months, and you will see. Okay, so we have a first question from the audience. It is about cleaning and disinfection. It is asked, how will the positive list for cleaning and disinfection be made, and what is the process? And in particular, how is made sure that the challenges like food safety, different product types are taken into account? So I will address this to Laurence first, and also to Alex as well.
Okay, just to tell on cleaning and disinfection, I agree that it's complicated, and it's a difficult issue from a technical point of view to solve. I want to say that we already started to work on this with the Commission, but also with IFOAM and also with FIBOL, because a lot of organizations have been working on these issues. And so far what we've been doing is we've been collecting what is done by, the position papers and the work that has been done by the sector. Also in the member states, we collected a full list of products and substances that they thought would be necessary for the sector. And we also ask an opinion from the expert group for technical advice on organic production. But we ask an advice not on the list of product, but on a list of criteria. Because when we did the analysis at the Commission, I think first, before we select a list of product, we need to all agree on the criteria for the products and cleaning and disinfection that are suitable for organic productions. And so the report of the ECTOP on the criteria that are suitable for organic production, for the product of cleaning and disinfection suitable for organic production, is not yet published because we still have issues to solve from a legal point of view. But I just want to basically set the basic rules. The basic rules is that any kind of products that will be put on this list should be in line with the horizontal rules on detergents and on biocides. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing would be that we will have to establish criteria and, according to the objectives and principles of organic production. So they are a question of environment, of course. There is also a question of food safety. I mean, there is no question that we will undermine food safety of organic processed food because the cleaning product or the disinfection product is good for the environment, but it's not working. So, and this will be set in the criteria. And then what we will do, we will, once we have set the criteria, then we will try to come up with a list and trying to address all the needs of the organic processing food. And I agree with you that it's quite challenging, and because you will deal with product like, that you need to clean up the tubes, make sure that you don't have a scale, in the tubes, but it also can be, surface cleaning. So it's going to be huge work. And once we have set the criteria, then we will work on a list of products and substances. And this is basically one of I think we will have a lot of work, in the next year with the new ECTOP group to work on this list. So this is what I wanted to say from the Commission point of view, and that we will need the input from IFOAM and other organizations to make sure that we come up with something that the sector can work with.
Yes, thank you, Laurence. Thank you, Laurence. We will we are working on this, and we will contact you very soon. Thank you. And Alex, you want to have a short reaction on that as well?
For enlightening us on the process, and as you all know, I'm not in the driver's seat, so we need to listen to Laurence. But I could give some advice here, and have already tried to mention some elements. I would like to mention again that there are ongoing projects trying to develop solutions, and I recommend to the Commission to listen to this work or even involve this in their concerns and discussions. That's important. And I even have the recommendation that maybe from the primary wording, which is set up in an organic regulation, in a new organic regulation right now, it's, by the way, speaking more on products and on substances, and there are some elements which really need to revisit. I'm not sure whether we will end up in a positive list of substances or products. So I simply say maybe there should, in the process, a bit of openness to step a bit back and think on the overall concept. And finally, I would like to give a recommendation, a useful implementation of, I would say, more environmental friendly and for sure substances which lead to a safe production has to be embedded into a cleaning and disinfection strategy and concept within a company. And the concept is as important as the substances, and even this needs to be mentioned in the process or reflected in the process in order to come to a good solution which meets the criteria of the principles set up in organic ratio: environmental friendly, careful to humans, careful to the products, and so on. So I think you should widen a bit the scope. That's my advice.
Yes, thank you, Alex. As always, in organic, it's not only about replacing substances and products, but it's really about changing approach. So thank you for this. We have another question for Michel. I would say that if it's possible to evaluate the new requirements for group certification, in particular for the existing group in third countries. We worked a lot on it. Can you say just some words on that, Michel?
I will try. Because it's difficult today to say. We know there are some changes. There are already some from several control bodies. They try to make some simulation because it will impact due to the change of, for example, the number, the size of the group, the number of external controls. This is a mechanical, I would say, impact, because now it's 5% and it was a square root of the number. So it's up a certain number of farmers, it will be more intensive. We have also this, when I mentioned in my presentations, the aspect of analysis and sampling, which is in big groups could be, so when I say big groups, it's until 2,000 members, quite have an impact. We see in some cases that we multiply by 2 or 3 the cost of the certifications. We must see how far it is and the group will be able to continue if it's dissuasive or not. I think it's very early now to say this. We will see. It will be impacting some of the cost, but I think there are some aspects from example, the external control. I think there were also weakness in the system before, and I think the reactions of the Commission, but everyone also was to say we have to reinforce this. We must see, and I think the point I mentioned before was on sampling analysis, and I think it will be important in the next 2 years to assess the situation and to see if it's really adapted and appropriate, and no go to more risk approach on this instead towards this border. What I would say, I think, to summarize, is we should really to follow this very to follow up this and to see the impact of this, and as far as we see impact, also to make a feedback to the Commission and to see if there are some improvement to do. This is always my approach, to say things are there, no, we have to do it, and we should see if we can improve it.
Okay, thank you, Michel. We have only 5 minutes left. I wanted to ask also to Laurence about the timeline for salt. We know that there was an ECTOP report. How do you see the next steps?
Okay, so we are very impressed at the Commission by the interest there is for salt. Okay, what we said when we started the secondary legislation was that our priority would be to make sure that all the people that are currently in business under the rules will be able to, to work from the 1st of January 2022. So this is why we haven't, the rules for salt, we started to work on them with the member states. We had already discussions in the GREX group for the salt. But at one point, this discussion was stopped because we needed additional technical knowledge. So as you mentioned, we then requested, we asked specific question to the ECTOP, and they just produced the final report line in August. And now we're going to start a discussion with the member states. In fact, we had an expert group and a COP group these last 2 days, and the member states asked the same, when are you going to have the rules ready? And so we are going to first discuss with the member states, to explain the final report of ECTOP basically to the member states at the next GREX and COP meeting. And then we will start drafting the delegated act. But realistically, nothing is going to be ready, I would say, before the first semester of 2022, because the procedure for delegated act is quite long. And also we cannot, this is planning, because we cannot say how long the discussions are going to last between the member states. And but we want to, this is the top priority for 2022.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if Alex wants to add something on this salt issue. Please, short comment, Alex.
My feeling is that we still need to work a bit how to give the organic salt a certain character, a certain differentiation to normal salt. When I looked to the ECTOP report, my feeling is nearly all salt can be finally labeled organic, and that's what I think is not the objective. And for example, when it comes to inputs, when it comes to sourcing, when it comes to environmental, so there is, I think there is room. That's my recommendation, my feedback to the ECTOP report. So there is room for, I would say, the idea to give what is called organic salt a bit a character, which helps to distinguish in the market for the consumers.
Yes. That's exactly the issue that we want to tackle. You need to have rules that will make the organic salt meaningful. The term organic for salt meaningful. But the discussion with the member states will be interesting.
Thank you very much, and we will also give our input when it will be the right moment. So I think now we have to close. I really want to thank very much the speakers. It's always challenging to make these hybrid events with people in Warsaw physically, other in Brussels, other in Germany or France. We were very lucky as we had today really the best speakers and the best experts that we can have on this subject. And I want to thank Laurence, Alex, and Michel. And I want to invite the audience to join the next session that is about packaging. Packaging and organic, less is more. And I will pass the baton to the moderator of the next session, Dora Drexler. She's also the Vice President of IFOAM Organics Europe. So thank you again. Thank you to the audience in Warsaw and everywhere. And Dora, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.